Hello YouTube, I'm the Gaming Pegasus 187. This is Side Scroller Sunday Episode 5. The Super Mario Land playthrough continues. At this point, I have 2 of the 6 golden coins going into Macro Zone to get number 3. So, I think I'm going to call this the What the Fuck Wrestling episode. Because I really have nothing to talk about with Raw this week. I mean, you had a great segment with Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho. You had Damien Sandow get punched out by Bret Hart. Sandow dressed up as Bret, continuing his weird copycat gimmick. Oh god, they've buried this guy so hard, it's insane. Damien Sandow went from having the Money in the Bank contract, only to lose to John Cena. Cena wins, LOL. And then he's been jobbed out pretty much every week, and it's like, why? I love Sandow's gimmick. He's like a new age genius. If you remember Lanny Poffo, Randy Savage's brother, the genius? What a great gimmick that was. And that's what I see a lot in Sandow. Anyway, I thought about this when I've been watching WCW Greed, which was their last pay-per-view, which took place on March 18th of 2001, and I'm watching this on the WWE Network. When, in some insane idea, and I'm not talking about this idea that, you know, Dusty Rhodes eating 40 burritos backstage before a Kiss My Ass match, teaming with his son Dustin against Ric Flair and Jeff Jarrett. I'm talking about the fact they created WCW Cruiserweight Tag Titles, a new division, when they got 2 champions out of this. The first being Kid Romeo and Elix Skipper, and then Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman would win the titles on the very last Nitro 8 days later. So I was thinking like bad wrestling. And I decided to do a little bit of a new segment. This one's, I'm going to probably fill out a pretty good chunk of this video with it. It is called LOL TNA History. Now, I know it's the popular thing to bash on TNA, but a lot of that is what's going on now. What's going on between, you know, the top guys of the company leaving: AJ Styles, Chris Daniels, Frank Kazarian, Chris Sabin, yada yada yada. There's been a lot of insane bullshit. One I will kind of go over quick, and this is the reason I wanted to bring this up, is the whole Awesome Kong Bubba the Love Sponge angle. Or not even angle, this bullshit. So, this is when they decide, for whatever reason, to go head-to-head with Monday Night Raw. Hulk Hogan came in, Eric Bischoff came in, Ric Flair came in. This was the same day that WWE had been hyping up the big return for Bret Hart, who had not been seen in the WWE, well, since, well, unless you really count the Hall of Fame, which at this point, they did the DVD and they inducted him in the Hall of Fame, which is where he deserves to go, but he had always had some, hard feelings, the whole Montreal thing. But, like, this was him, he came in, he buried the hatchet with Shawn, and they did the whole angle at WrestleMania, which I don't want to shit on that match, just because I think it did what it was designed to do. Let Bret get his big revenge against Vince for the screw job. Yeah. That's still, fun to watch, just to see, Vince tap out to the sharpshooter, Bret get that measure of revenge from Montreal. So, I guarantee Hogan's request, they decided to bring in Bubba the Love Sponge, who would later, basically, would tweet, "Fuck Haiti," get his ass kicked by Awesome Kong. They got an altercation backstage, Kong, who had basically been a big, fundraiser for the country, for the relief effort. And she's actually one of the best female wrestlers today. Basically, Hogan called it, and ended up beating the shit out of Bubba the Love Sponge backstage. Hogan called it the worst one-sided locker room beating he had seen in 30 years. But, yeah. So, she gets suspended. She refuses to go on a UK tour. They refuse to give her release on request. They end up firing after she didn't get a pay raise in the Knockouts division, and yeah. Hold on, let me find it here. Let's see. After starting, okay. Let's see. Okay. And this is also after a threatening phone call from Bubba and a refusal from TNA to increase her pay within the Knockouts division. They were finally released her. Then decided to strip her and her partner Hamada of the TNA Knockout Tag Team titles, which would never really be a big thing until I got Eric Young, it was a male, and ODB won it. Held the titles for over a year, and then they finally it made them got rid of them. They also just recently got rid of the television title, same thing, but the on-screen explanation being that they had not defended them within 30 days, but they actually defended them 21 days prior. Hamada all but disappeared from the show and was later released. As for Bubba, he got released in April, not long after. And what did he do, you may ask? To get shit-canned by TNA when fuck Haiti wasn't enough, he ambushed Kong during an interview on another radio show and spouted racist and sexist slurs at her. The host of the radio show was one of Bubba's friends, and they had planned the ambush. Once the interview hit the internet, his release was swiftly and immediately announced and celebrated by a great majority of the internet. Good news though, his last on-screen appearance was him getting blasted by Mick, taking a punch from Mick Foley and getting his nose broken. In fact, the picture on this thing is great. Just right after Foley punched him, he got a good one, and rightfully so. But that's probably one of my favorites, because no one likes Bubba the Love Sponge. See, this shit, like really stupid TNA crap, dates all the way back to 2002. And LOL TNA would not be possible without its savior, Vincent J. Russo. Good God. Good God, good God. Okay, moments before the very first TNA broadcast, a dark match took place that featured a morbidly obese black wrestler named Cheeks, spelled with an X, and his valet, the Brown Eye Girl. God. Okay, we already got an asshole gimmick. Basically, his immense weight damaged the ring, which meant the ring crew had to act fast and repair it before they went live on pay-per-view. And as they go live, you could see guys running back up the ramp, because they had just managed to fix the damn ring. The Dupps, a hillbilly tag team originally from ECW, helped TNA break new ground when the company introduced an incest aspect to their gimmick. A valet billed as both their cousin and girlfriend, fluffed up. This is certainly fluffed up, alright, aka fucked up. Vince McMahon wanted to do an incest storyline with Stephanie, where either he wanted him to be the father of Stephanie's kid, or then he wanted Shane to do it. Yeah, needless to say, Stephanie turned that down, thank God. Oh, God. You had a tag team called the Rainbow Express. They used the gay gimmick as heels, since, TNA targeted its, the southern audience who usually don't like the gays. They're heel, obviously. Yeah, gay people are the bad guys, and so says every teabagging right-wing Christian piece of shit. So, Don West made awkward, homophobic remarks about the team, while heel commentator Ed Ferrara sounded educated and tolerant in comparison. And they debuted after the cousin fucking Dupps, which the commentators didn't seem to care about at all. They had not one but two terrible penis-related gimmicks. You had the Hot Shots, future Raven follower Cassidy Riley, and future natural Chase Stevens. And this is their first TNA appearances. They wrestled with giant bulges in their pants, i.e. tube socks jammed down their tights. Good God. You remember was it a GTV thing during the Attitude Era? There was a clip of Val Venus pulling Mr. Rocco out of the trash, rolling it up and jamming it down his pants. Yeah, that's what this is. They cut a promo that consisted of 3 brief lines. We're pricks, we are proud, and we are protruding. And grab their dicks afterwards. And then you had Richard and Rod the Johnsons, who were literally a pair of wrestling cocks. Yeah, they wrestled in, flesh-colored jumpsuits, masks, and were basically 2 big giant dicks. Yeah. The first month of weekly pay-per-views featured a midget match on nearly every show. The short-lived midget division included Puppet, a psychotic dwarf who threatened to kill other midgets, and once masturbated in a trash can before asking backstage interviewer Goldilocks excuse me, if she wanted some of his porridge. Meatball, an obese midget, and Tio, an extreme midget who once tried to force his way onto one of the cage dancers. So already, we have public masturbating midgets, we have dick gimmicks, we have cousin fuckers, gay people are bad, and now we have a midget rapist. Oh god. TNA plugged an elimination match on the first show by having Elektra make one of the most egregious accusations in wrestling history. She accused Francine of causing ECW's bankruptcy. The next week, the women involved in the match what looked like pajamas from Insane Asylum and left the ring after getting stripped down to their bra and panties. Jeremy Borash fucked up the introductions for the first two girls and just stopped introducing them altogether. Once Francine was eliminated, Edfer tried to help her. In response, Francine pretended she would fillet Ed before she punched him in the nuts. This took the focus on the actual match, which caused cameras to miss most of the eliminations. Taylor Vaughn, BB, and WWE eventually won the match, which meant she earned a contract in the Miss TNA moniker. I believe Mickie James was also in this match. Yeah. I'm just gonna go over like a bunch of short ones because there's a lot of these I could easily go over. I'm literally gonna be doing these in no order. I'm gonna do these probably one or two. I'm doing a lot of the quick ones tonight just because I got a longer video and I could probably, yeah. I'll probably cram a few more, just a few next week, but there are going to be more I could probably give a little more thought on. There really isn't a lot to say about some of these. Let's see. Ooh, the sports entertainment. Oh, wait, hold on, before that. The Russo shoots. Yes, Vince Russo. You want bad booking? You ask Vince Russo. The guy that booked David Arquette and then himself is WCW champion. Let's see. Yeah, the infamous line, "Oh shit, it's Vince Russo," when Mr. Wrestling 3 unmasked after helping Jeff Jarrett win his first world title in the company. Let's see. Russo stated by claiming that TNA originally stood for tits and ass and that the promotion would have been gritty. Some indications of this original concept remain: the cage dancing girls and midgets masturbating in garbage cans. Let's see, the next pay-per-view, Roddy Piper was giving a live mic to plug his book. Sorry, I'm losing I just fucking lost my place. Okay, so plug his book. Instead, he shoots on Russo where the crowd went nuts. This was until Piper said, "Hey Russo, did you book my cousin Owen's death?" Everything went quiet while Piper ranted about Vince before Russo came in to call Piper down. The Piper refused to give him the mic, hit him with the book, and then verbally berated him. After a tag match, Russo came out and responded to Piper's comments. He talked about how he gave the fans everything they wanted and he will deliver. He mentioned Athena, who was a local girl from Tennessee who worked in the arena. Due to her being attractive and having some background as a wrestling valet, signs started appearing at the shows, such as "Hire Athena" or "TNA needs more Athena." In response, Russo brought her to the ring. A very uncomfortable sequence ensued that involved Russo attempting to get her to flash the audience. Sexism. Here we go. Slapping her and repeatedly calling her an ugly wench. Eventually, the Harris twins came out for the save, but here comes Vince Russo's favorite thing, the swerve. The Harris twins came out and they hit Athena with their finisher twice. Apparently, security didn't feel it's necessary to intervene until after Athena was completely laid out. TNA Brand J.J. Dillon announced that he had replaced Bob Armstrong as NWA representative. Russo came out with the Harris brothers and called Dylan a piece of shit, a pawn for Vince McMahon during his time with the WWF, and claimed that Dylan was the man responsible for his WCW release. This segment ended with the Sandman attacking the Harris brothers on Dylan's behalf, and then disappeared from the promotion. A video package of Mike Tenay interviewing Vince Russo opened the show, which was intended to introduce Vince Russo to new viewers. During the work shoot, Russo defending putting the WCW, which he referred to as a prop, on David Arquette. And remember, he also put the title on himself. Defended ruining the Cruiserweight division with the likes of Oklahoma, who was a complete no jab at Jim Ross, played by, I believe it was Ed Ferrara, who, as mentioned before, got punched in the balls by Francine when she acted like she was gonna blow him. Yeah, that was a gimmick that would end like Ferrara would come and save Francine, and then he'd feel her up, and yeah. Jackass. Stupid. It's just fucking stupid. And he also told the fans that if you want Lucha Libre, go to Japan. Vince Russo, the brain power of a broken light bulb. Tony Schiavone debut, turned heel, was promised a job by Russo, and then was never seen again. This entire segment lasted a good 10 minutes, and achieved absolutely nothing except to waste everybody's time. I'm sorry, this is so unbelievably stupid I have to laugh. Fan signs clearly shown throughout this segment include "Who cares?" and the total non-stop action has officially stopped. Sports Entertainment Extreme. This was made worse by the fact that Russo introduced the stable, known as Sports Entertainment Extreme. David Flair made his debut wielding an axe, presumably to use on Jeff Jarrett, and Kurt Hennig, Tenay and West hyped up Flair, who just months ago was completely destroyed on WWF TV by The Undertaker. As a huge acquisition for sex, Vince Russo also decided to axe the TNA set for Shiggles, aka Shits and Giggles. Shits and Giggles, and I'm laughing too. Debut of both Flair and the Axe led to TNA's first iteration of Vince Russo's favorite gimmick match, the item on a pole. Wasn't Judy Bagwell on a pole at one point in WCW? I believe she was. The axe handle on a pole. This match included Flair and Hennig, and this would be Kurt Hennig's last match because I believe at some point after this he passed away. Mr. Perfect, his last match was not perfect. Mike Sanders was hyped as a big acquisition and joined Sex almost immediately. And then, almost immediately after his debut, he jobbed to Jim Duggan twice, Moondog Spot, and Shark Boy. The Rock and Roll Express immediately turned heel after their debut. Again, random face heel turns for no goddamn reason. And basically did practically nothing. Russo left the company as an on-screen character in an angle that paralleled the Ric Flair-David Flair saga in 2000 WCW. Jarrett taped an interview of Russo's sons, basically saying that Russo was a terrible father. He's a completely horrible booker, too. He then left Sex to be handled by Glenn Gilberti and Mike Sanders. During their feud with Jose Estrada, they introduced a fat Elvis impersonator named Disgraceland to the group. He ate during his matches, gave Estrada a swirly in the toilet, and after his debut, disappeared after getting beat down by Estrada. This is like a few weeks after Disgraceland debuted. Triple X won the tag titles for their stable. And this is Low Key, Elix Skipper, and Chris Daniels. which also included the Harris Brothers and the Rock and Roll Express. This effectively reduced the competitors for the tag titles to AMW and the New Church, as every other tag team was already part of Sports Entertainment Extreme. Vince Russo returned to TV, distanced himself from Sex. Russo claimed he owned the rights to the name, stripped a group of the gimmick. Despite being a nameless and, at this point, useless faction, they stuck around for a while, did nothing before breaking up. Ooh, one night in TNA. This was really quick stuff. Vader showed up, went over the Harris Brothers, and was never seen again. Paul Bearer randomly debuted at the end of a pay-per-view, did practically nothing except Blade a couple weeks later. After Russo unmasked as Mr. Wrestling 3, Mr. Wrestling 4 showed up, and unmasked to be Nikita Koloff, who hadn't been seen since '92. He teased turning against Russo before walking out, never to be seen again. Bart Gunn made his TNA debut. TNA hyped him up as a former big superstar from the WWE. Well, 3-time tag champion. I guess big time for TNA. He joined Sex, lasted about a week. Moondog Spot tagged with Jim Duggan, went over Sex leaders Gilberti and Sanders in under 2 minutes, never showed up again. Viscera debuted to be Ron Killing's bodyguard, disappeared after 2 weeks and never seen again. Mike Awesome hung around the New Church for a few weeks and disappeared. Lex Luger's arrival in TNA came while he was still under indictment for 13 felony drug charges after the death of Miss Elizabeth handled what happened in his home. TNA used this to their advantage and hyped this as his first match since the Elizabeth fiasco. Before the match, he cut a shitty promo in which he called AJ Styles AC Styles. He then almost made AJ tap in the torture rack until Sting saved the day. Way to keep your face strong there, guys. Oh, God. Oh, one of the big ones. Hogan not coming to TNA. Jeff Jarrett attacked Hogan at a press conference in October. This was supposed to be TNA's first ever $30 Supercard pay-per-view that had the main event of Jarrett Hogan. Jarrett was supposed to go over and Hogan suddenly, mysteriously had pains. The whole thing turned out to be meaningless as Hogan would not wrestle for TNA and eventually re-signed with the WWE. Hogan went on to never appear in a TNA ring until 2010. The footage of Hogan being attacked was replayed countless times and made it on the TNA 50 Greatest Moments DVD. Part of the issue with Hogan coming in went to back to Bash the Beach 2000, where Jarrett laid down for Hogan in a work shoot. In the speech after the match, Russo came out and called Hogan a bald son of a bitch. Hogan, despite being in on everything that night, wasn't happy with being called bald and followed a real deformation of character suit that prevented the two from working together. 3 years later, this suit still existed. On top of this, there was very real tension in the booking and creative team. At the time, it consisted of Jarrett. Okay, it's not a bad thing because Jarrett knows wrestling. Dutch Mantell, who also knows wrestling, and Vince Russo, who doesn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. Often the three would come up with a scenario and agree with Russo's plans before waiting for Vince to leave and change all of his ideas. Russo was paranoid that Jarrett was out to get him, and when Jarrett told me he'd been in discussions with Hogan, Russo immediately saw that as a betrayal. Later that month, Russo made the decision to leave TNA to take himself off television. Russo had Jarrett beat him up. Russo told him to make it look as real as possible. Russo would suffer another concussion and severe bruising. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Celebrity involvement. Johnny Fairplay, the guy on Survivor that came up to lie about his grandmother to get sympathy to win a competition. Hyped up as the most hated man in America. Would do about 8 appearances. Did about totaling 40 minutes. Get paid $350,000. Get signed to 2 contracts. Never used during the second one. Yeah. Only big moment he had was when Brian Urlacher chucked him halfway across the asylum in Nashville, which pissed off the Chicago Bears because TNA never asked them. to use Urlacher in a physical role. Russo returns. After firing Mike Tenay the week before, Jared discovered there was a new director of authority. Tenay returned at the end of next show to bring out the new DOA, Vince Russo. Russo had become a born-again Christian during his time off and wanted to come back and have the opportunity to explain himself on TV. In his first promo back, he claimed he did a deal with the devil and knelt at the altar of television ratings by putting nudity, violence, and vulgarity at the forefront of TV. All three of these words were given pops. After Russo announced that he'd been forgiven, i.e. Christian, the crowd chanted, "Bullshit." Inevitably, in spite of Russo getting a chance to pass the torch, this became another Jarrett Russo feud. Jarrett slapped Russo and got zero reaction. I could go on. There's, so much here. From Russo returning in 2007, the big fat oily guy, yeah. So, a couple quick plugs. Come right to the end of the video. I'm going to edit something over this, but the Hey Listen podcast will be recording episode 50. So, tweet me your questions at GameandPegasus187. You could tweet Hey Listen Pod to ask questions for the episode. You can go on the Pete's Game Room forum, ask this question in our own little dedicated forum. I'll throw the link to that little thread down below. And yeah, Side Scroller Sunday 6 will be out next week, where I believe I will get Golden Coin number 5, maybe go for 6, and yeah. And then all you have left is the final castle. Pegasus out.